It has been said by the, IRS commissioner or whatever. So once you accept the offer, you let go of your rights and you accept what are known as privileges and benefits. And we'll kick into that as we keep moving along. So that's that section.
Okay, then. All right. So I think we've established the position that most of us that we're kind of in here, that because we didn't know our rights, we're in this legal system where we don't have rights. So now we need to kind of reset and we need to go back and define rights. We need to look at how these things come to be, right? So defining rights. Conceptually, rights are freedoms that man or woman must experience in a society in order to live. Okay, rights are not the things written on the Constitution, right? Rights are not the things written in the statutes. They are freedoms that people must experience in a society in order to live. Like, what is right for people in society? So that which is right for a man or woman in society are the rights. Okay. So the rights referred to in the Constitution are these freedoms. The Constitution doesn't cause rights. Okay. It writes them down for us to be aware of. Okay. What do you think about that, Brad?
Well, the Constitution is a reminder to what the framers of it knew that the government would try to infringe upon them. So that the Bill of Rights is a reminder to them that the people, your bosses, retain all these rights and freedoms. That's what the Bill of Rights is.
Right. So yeah, that's a key point. They're reminders. They exist independent of the Constitution because rights are inherently understood like by reason, right? If it weren't for the media and the government going on and telling you a whole bunch of propaganda about what your supposed rights are, which is all false, you would just understand it immediately. And it's simple to understand because an action is wrong if it causes harm, loss, or injury to others. Right. So it's that simple. If you can just sit there and just reason and think about it like, what would be right in this case? And it's just, if the action causes harm, loss, or injury to another, it's wrong. And then everything which is left over is right.
Right. It's the golden rule to even make it simpler, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So do you have the right to play your rock music at full blast at midnight? You do, technically, right? There's no law that says you can't do that, but your upstairs neighbors and next door neighbors may not be too happy about that. And would you like it when they were blasting their music at midnight on a night when you were trying to get some sleep? They probably wouldn't be. So you've caused some injury to them, right? They can't sleep. So that's just a real simple example of checking. If you're not sure whether you have that right or not, you can check it that way. Right?
And I think something else that makes it easier to check, for you to reason this out is we don't have to change the language and how we use this thing, but if you distance yourself from this idea of having rights and you just ask the question, what is right? It becomes a lot easier.
Sure.
Because if you say, is it right for me to blast music at that time? Yeah, that's simpler, right? Well, no, it's not right because it's going to annoy the hell out of other people. And they didn't come here to be annoyed so much.
Right. You could say, well, I got to get to bed early tomorrow night. What if my neighbor turns their music up tomorrow night when I'm trying to sleep? I'm not going to be too happy about that. Right. So, simple example.
And you could also ask yourself, prior to there being a society, would people agree to live in a society where it's okay for you to blast your 100-watt amplifier in the middle of the night? And the answer would be no. You wouldn't agree to live in that society because
there might be
that would be a sucky society.
Complex, right? But there might be somewhere an apartment complex where rock and rollers live, and that's the deal when you move in there, is that you can practice your electric guitar at full blast at all hours of the day, and everybody agrees that lives in your apartment complex.
Right.
So
exactly
in that place, you have the rights. Go ahead.
Right. Rights have no context outside of a society. They're contextual to societies, right? What is right for this particular society, right? It's not just they come from nowhere. They come from an analysis of people living in a society and what is right for
Right.
the society.
Right. Right. And everybody agrees to abide by those.
Right. So we're starting to touch on these ideas, and we're getting pretty deep into them of where the rights come from. So maybe you could just elaborate a bit more on where people think from rights come from. This whole idea of the Constitution giving rights, and even going into the Ninth Amendment, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, you just hear this all the time. People say they trampled our constitutional rights, or they're trying to trample my constitutional rights, or the Constitution gives me the right to blah, blah, yada yada yada. Right? You hear it all the time. The assumption is that
Mm-hmm.
we've gotten our rights from this document that a bunch of men wrote 250 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's not it at all. Again, it was a reminder to the government that these are the rights of the citizens, the state citizens, as they were called back then. And even I think I've heard someone say that there were over 200 amendments that all the framers wanted. Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry and all the rest wanted over 200, and they knew they had to boil it down because it was just going to be a huge document. And so they boiled it down to the 10. But the Ninth Amendment says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Those are
right.
Just because they didn't write it down in the Constitution doesn't mean you can take away other rights that I have. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the whole point of the Ninth Amendment. That's the whole Ninth Amendment.
Right. And it reminds me of when you go to a website or deal with a company or something, it'll say all rights reserved. That's kind of like a personal Ninth Amendment kind of thing. Like anything that is not mentioned here in all the legal talk that we provided, regardless of that, all rights are reserved. So it doesn't matter what's written down or anything. Rights are reserved.
That's right.
Whether they're listed or not.
That's right. And a lot of the constitutional gurus, the lawful gurus, will tell you this every time you make a signature, write those exact words after your signature.
All rights reserved?
All rights reserved without prejudice.
Without prejudice.
Right.